What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back. In today's video we are checking out a monster of an e-bike. What we have here today, it's called the Lankeleisi MG800 MAX. So this is a bike that has 26-inch wheels and 4-inch wide tires. We also have two motors, one on the back and one on the front. So 1000 watts of power on the front, 1000 watts of power on the back. So you have a very powerful bike, and of course you can use this either with the rear motor or the front motor or both motors together. With that being said, let's start by doing a bit of an unboxing just so I can show you the box that this bike comes in and what you have to do to get this ready and on the road. Alright, so the bike comes in a massive box. The box is also pretty heavy, so you're definitely gonna need a second person to carry this around. The bike itself is also quite heavy. So with the battery pack that's in the frame here, you're looking at about 48 kilos. So it is a very heavy bike. If you do have to carry this up the stairs or something like that, it is extremely heavy. You're also going to need a second person to put this together because, as I said, the bike is pretty heavy. So you basically have to put the front mudguard together, you have to put the front wheel together, you have to put the front headlight together, you have to install the handlebar here, you have to install the rear rack, you have to install the pedals. It's not hard to do, but it is time consuming, so you're looking at about an hour to get this ready and on the road. The bike itself looks absolutely massive, and anywhere you take this bike, people just stop and turn their heads and look at you because the bike looks quite unusual. And of course that has a lot to do with the massive frame. So the battery pack is actually located in the frame here. The battery pack can be removed from the frame if you need to charge the battery pack at home or something like that. But what makes the bike look massive are obviously the 26-inch wheels that have 4-inch wide tires. The tires are also from a good brand. And since we have these kind of tires, it's quite easy to go off-roading with this bike. So if you need to jump some curves, if you go over uneven terrain, the ride is pretty comfortable. That also has to do a lot with the front and mid suspension here. So everything combined does make the ride quite comfortable. The seat is also one of the most comfortable seats that I got to try on any bike. It is wide, it has a lot of padding, so a very, very comfortable ride. Now, the front suspension here, of course, you can adjust how soft or how hard the front suspension is. Has about 2 inches of travel, I'm gonna say. But one thing I'm not a big fan of is what happens with the cable here from the front motor. Because every time the suspension kind of goes up and down, it kind of pulls on that cable. So I'm not a big fan of that. I wish they would have had a better system, well, cable management system basically, because I'm not a fan of how that cable constantly moves up and down every time I go over bumps, over uneven terrain or anything like that. As for range, well, the manufacturer says that you can get up to 130 kilometers of range on one charge, or about 50 to 70 kilometers if you are riding on electric mode only. So basically, if you don't want to pedal at all, there is a throttle right here on the right hand side, and you don't actually have to pedal at all. You can just accelerate with the throttle. As I mentioned earlier, you can either have the rear motor going, the front motor going, or the front and rear together. And since we have so much power, you can basically go on any terrain or up any hill basically, and the bike will take you up any hill without you actually having to pedal if you don't want to. So the bike does have a lot of power. So let me quickly show you a hill climbing test that I've done the other day. Alright, so next I want to show you how much power this bike has and how it goes up hills. This is one of the steepest hills that we have here. With most bikes, you will have trouble going up this hill. So first we're going to start by accelerating with the throttle. So I'm just going to do that and then we'll pedal. So much power that the front wheel started to spin. So literally I'm just accelerating with the throttle. This bike is limited at 25 kilometers an hour. Right now I haven't unlocked it. But basically up this hill I just accelerate with the throttle. So I don't have to do any pedaling at all. Now if I want to stop accelerating with the throttle, so I'm going to stop that. I can just pedal, and of course the bike will assist me because it does have a speed sensor, so it will bring me to that 25 kilometer an hour speed. But whenever I get tired of pedaling, I basically accelerate back with the throttle, and the bike will just go up this hill and pretty much any other hill. So So once again, we'll start accelerating the throttle. The steepest part of this hill is actually coming up. So I'm just gonna... Okay, so I'm not sure if you can actually see the hill from here, but we'll just accelerate to the throttle basically. Maybe I should have unlocked the bike for this test. So no pedaling at all. And the bike is staying steady around 24-25 kilometers an hour. Now it's slowing down a tiny bit. But as you can see, this is an insanely steep hill. So if you don't want to pedal at all, this bike has a lot of power. So that easy going up a hill like this one. Now with all that power, you're also gonna need some pretty good stopping power. So the bike is equipped with hydraulic disc brakes. These are 180mm disc brakes, and I'm happy to say that they do work really well. So whenever you're riding and you wanna stop, you can definitely stop, and you can lock that front and rear wheel if you want to. I'm also happy to say that the brakes don't really make any noise aside from when you're braking, so no squeaky noises or anything like that. So the stopping power is good even for this monster of a bike. On the rear here, we also have a rack. So if you have like a backpack or you want to carry something, you can definitely strap it to this massive rack that we have on the back here. We have plastic mudguards on the front and on the back. They are fairly big. Now, here it doesn't really rain, so I never actually took the bike out while it's raining, so I can't really say how well they protect you against splashing, but they do look pretty big and they don't make any noise whenever you're riding. To complete the motorcycle kind of look, we also have a massive headlight here on the front. You can still see this during the day, so it is a bright headlight. We also have a rear light, and the rear light also acts as a brake light whenever you're pulling on the brake levers. So good lights on the bike as well. The MG800 MAX is also using a 7-gear Shimano shifter. Now, since we have so much power and we also have a throttle, I find that I never actually shift gears because I just have power in pretty much any gear that I'm using. So personally, I don't really shift gears, but yes, the shifting system does work good out of the box, so there was no need for any adjustment when I took the bike out of the box. The pedals here are made out of metal. As I mentioned earlier, you do have to install this when you take the bike out of the box. The bike is also using a speed sensor, so it's not using a torque sensor. In a way that's good, in a way that's bad. It really depends how you want your bike to feel when you're riding. If you're looking for a more conventional bike, you're basically gonna love a torque sensor more than a speed sensor. But for a bike like this, I feel that the speed sensor kind of suits the bike better. Moving to the handlebar here, the handlebar is fairly wide. The grips here don't seem to move at all. We have our brake levers here. These are also made out of metal. On the left hand side, we have all the buttons here. So whatever you want to do, you have the buttons here. You can control the screen from those buttons on the left hand side. On the right hand side, we have the throttle. So as I said, if you don't want to pedal, you can just accelerate with the throttle. And then in the center here, we have the screen. Now, unfortunately, the screen, it's a bit difficult to see depending on the conditions when you are riding. So on a bright day like today, if the sun is kind of like shining on the screen, it is a bit difficult seeing the screen. Now, the handlebar here cannot be raised in height. So that could have been a nice adjustment to have, even though the riding position is not as bad as I've seen from other bikes. So you're not totally straight, but you don't have to put that much pressure onto your wrists. So the riding position is still pretty comfortable, mostly if you lower the seat a bit. And another quick demonstration how well this bike does uphill. So I'm basically not gonna pedal at all. I'm just gonna accelerate with the throttle. I have the front and rear motors going at the same time. So you'll see how this goes. So it has so much power that the front wheel will spin a bit when I start moving. So I'm gonna accelerate. So I don't have to pedal at all. Alright, so let me quickly show you how you'd use this bike. It is super simple to use. So we basically have the power button right here. You hold that press for about 3 seconds. And from the plus button here, you can switch in between modes with the front motor, the rear motor, or both. So right now, I'm not sure if you can actually see on the screen, there is an F there. That means that only the front motor is going. If I hold that pressed, it will go to B, so the rear motor, and
Then if I hold that pressed, it says dual. So I typically ride this bike with the dual motors. So for assistance levels, you can change them from the plus and minus from here. So we have 5 levels of assistance, and basically you can start riding and the bike will start assisting you, or you can accelerate with the throttle. First we're gonna start by pedaling, so you can see how that works. Will go in assistance level 3. So you do have to start moving quite a bit, and then the bike will start assisting you. So as you pedal, of course it will assist you. So I'm filming this on a very steep hill. Most bikes, I'm talking about like 95% of the bikes that I try, cannot do anything on this hill, but this one does work extremely well because we have so much power. Now if you don't want to pedal, you can just accelerate to the throttle, so like this, and the bike just goes, and it keeps accelerating even on steep hills like this. So very easy to ride a bike like this in pretty much any situation. We're gonna go down. I'll show you how the brakes work. You can also see that front suspension working. So we're gonna stop somewhere around here. So if you want to lock those wheels, you definitely can, no problem at all. And as you can see, that front suspension does work well because this road is definitely not that smooth. So this easy riding this bike, you either pedal or you accelerate with the throttle, and that's it. So very effort that you have to put into actually riding this bike.
So to quickly conclude this video, if you're looking for a bike that stands out, this bike definitely stands out. It is massive. I love the colors that they have on it. Everybody turns their head and looks at this bike whenever you're riding it, mostly because it does look quite a bit unusual, let's call it. The ride is also quite comfortable, so whenever you're riding, you're not gonna feel tired after an hour or so. So very nice and comfortable ride. It delivers the power beautifully, so really no complaints about the power that we get from this bike. The shifting system works good, but you don't really need it because you have that throttle, so you don't necessarily have to pedal. So if you're looking for a powerful bike that stands out, this is definitely a bike to consider. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.